Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide, and in today's video we are going to be checking out some news regarding the upcoming and delayed Supernote A5X2. Recently, Rata have announced on their Reddit thread that they published a new picture. So we have actually a first sneak peek into the Supernote A5X2. So it is getting along, but it is delayed, and now the delay has been pushed back to Q3. So let's first check out the post, check out the image, what we can infer from that image, and then let's meet back here for the conclusion time. Alright, so this is the original post with the image that is shared here, and Supernote says, "We are thrilled to show you the prototype of the A5X2 featuring a semi-folio design that reduces its overall weight. The design specifically enhances the convenience of holding and carrying the device in various usage situations. Before we can proceed with mass production of this unique and innovative product, there is still a considerate amount of work that needs to be completed. Consequently, the launch will be postponed in order for us to ensure the best possible outcome. We expect to launch the A5X2 in the third quarter and are making every effort to make this target. We sincerely appreciate your enthusiasm for the progress of the A5X2 and thank you for your patience." So that is the post itself, and I believe it was posted 4 days ago, so fairly fresh. And now let's focus on the actual image here and see what we can infer from it. So on the left, or the distant side, we have the A5X, the original one, and here we have the covered version of the A5X2, and right off the bat we can see that the thickness difference is enormous. So this is truly, or promises to be, a truly slim design and a device. Now what we can't see from the back is, what we can see here as well, is that it appears to be levitating, right? Well, I think that this is because of that semi-folio design, because as you can see here we have the straight line and then it folds over here and then we have a little fold back. So I think that the folding over part is somewhere from here to here, if you can see the cursor tracing. So that part is probably on the back, and that is the thickness of it that actually we see here that makes the device levitate, is that thickness. The other alternative is that maybe the A5X2 has a design that's kind of, I don't know, bulging on the back to accommodate for some things, and that would create this kind of thing. But I sincerely hope that that's not the case, because that would make it an incredibly useless device for writing on a specifically fat surface. And considering that their motto is for those who write, I hope that they didn't make that kind of blunder, and that the actual surface of the A5X2 is flat, as it was, and as it is on the A6X2, as it is on the A5X, as it is on the A6X. That we'll see that here, and that this is the actual thickness or thinness of the device. So we see the semi-folio design here. We can infer that it's sticking out in the back, and we can see the thinness of the A5X2. We can also see a little bit of dimension differences here, but here we get into the problem of the perspective and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and measure out and infer what can we expect as far as the thickness goes, because we know the dimensions of the A5X. And if we do some clever perspective tweaking, we can maybe get some numbers that are close to what we can expect. So let's move on to the Photoshop. Alright, so here we are in Photoshop, and the only thing that I've done so far with the image itself is I adjusted the brightness levels, or the darkness levels. I increased them a little bit so that I can see the surface of the table a little bit better. The first thing that I'm interested in doing is to use the ruler tool and basically take out the measurements. Now, we know the measurements of the A5X, and A5X is 7.1 millimeter thickness, or thinness, however you want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in to the pixel level and start measuring roughly around here. So first, darker pixel, I'm going to measure out a vertical line and then kind of see what do we actually get. So let's say that's too far. Let's make first bright pixel and maybe down to here. So something like this. Let's be on a conservative side of things. So if this is my measurement of the thickness as it appears on the photo, and here I can see the value is 27, then I can make a correspondence because I have 7.1 millimeters equals 27 units or pixels in here, right? So now I can actually take that same kind of area here and zoom in so that we're in roughly the same area of the lens and the photograph and everything, and make this measurement here so that we can see what the relation is. So if I do a vertical here, we get, let's do conservative, let's say that it's 15. So we had 27 units and we have 15 units on the A5X2. All right, well, let's do some math here. So let's bring up the calculator here. All right, so what we have is 7.1 millimeters and versus the 15 units for 15 pixels of the A5X2, and we divide that by 27, which is the thickness of the A5X. And we get that from this image, and from these measurements, which may or may not be super precise or something, but we're getting the figure that the A5X2 might be around 3.95 millimeters thin, or let's say 4 millimeters thin, which it certainly looks like it. It looks absolutely amazing. So, okay, that if that turns out to be the case, that's going to be very, very impressive because, yeah, that has a prospect to be an incredible device. Okay. Now, please keep in mind that I don't know what the lens is used here. So I don't know the deformations of the lens or anything like that. So that value is just a rough approximation and what we can infer from this image. But it is an indication of what we might expect, the direction that we can actually expect things to go in. So that's pretty sweet. Now for the more difficult part. Now the more difficult part is, while I do know the length, the width and the height of the A5X2, I would like to use the same method to extrapolate and understand the value of, or the dimensions of the A5X2 as well. However, here that lens information is even more critical because we have severe changes in perspective here. So one thing that I can do is basically I can create a selection here. So let's just transform this selection and kind of select just the top here because I'm only interested in width and height, right? So if I make a selection like so, and if I then make that as a selection, and then I create a new layer from it, something like this, then I can use the perspective tools and basically adjust this in a way. So for example, if I do have a perspective warp and then I match it like so, of course this is going to be fairly imprecise, but it is a thing. So if I have this and then we get to warp and then I just give it a hint of what I want it to do, and then I tell it to straighten it up, then I should get perspective corrected kind of version. And I've done that before, and this is a more precise version of what I've done there. And when I have this, now I have the dimensions of the A5X and the dimensions of the A5X2 here, and then I use the same technique that I used here with measuring and doing that kind of stuff. So I've already done that, and from those measurements it looks like that the dimensions of the A5X2 will be 202 millimeters width, then probably around 245 millimeters height, and as we've seen 3.95 millimeters thickness. And in relation to the how does that relate to the A5X? Well, that means that the height is pretty much identical, but it is going to be quite a bit wider, because I believe the A5X is around 18 centimeters, so this is going to be like 2 centimeters wider, same kind of height, and considerably thinner, like really, really thinner. So from the prototype images that we've seen, and when adjusting to the perspective, it looks like that the dimensions of the A5X2 will be 202 by 245 by 3.95 millimeters. Well, I don't know about you, but I like nerding out, and I like that they've actually shown this image. And another thing that we can see is that there is no USB port down here, so that means that hopefully it's going to follow the A6X2 route, which means that the USB port is going to be up here and the power button is probably going to be here. Then we're going to have two sliding strips here and a big screen kind of going around there, and we can see that this thickness is expanding all the way to the edge, so we're probably looking at fairly thin bezels here. I don't know, we'll see, but definitely exciting stuff. All right, so it's delayed, but it exists. That's good stuff. I am really impressed by the thinness. If these haphazard measurements are not completely off the track, there's a very strong indication that the Supernote A5X2 is going to be super slim as a device. And considering that it's going to be made out of plastic, I think, because all of their devices are made of plastic, that infers also that it's going to be also really, really light. And that has a potential to be a really good combination. Unfortunately, it looks like that they will be employing this type of style of the half folio cover that we have here on the Kobo Ellipse 2E, which, yeah, it's comfortable enough to actually use, but for me, why do I say unfortunately? Well, because when you have it in this kind of flip cover state, it will not be flat on the ground, and we can actually see that from the images that there is a considerable offset from the ground until you reach the bottom of the device. So unfortunately it's not flush, but seeing how thin the device actually is, I'm not really surprised. I really am not surprised, because there's nowhere that they could have done that. But it's definitely not like a preferred thing for me to actually see that you have that kind of offset. Hopefully it's going to be like a magnetic solution, so it's really easy to just take and put the device back in, and that you're basically using the cover only when transporting the device, and for everything else that you're using it outside the cover. And honestly, if it's as thin and as light as these images suggest that it might be, or this image suggests that it might be, then I know that, at least for me personally, that I would prefer to use it outside of the cover, same as I prefer to use the Remarkable 2 outside of cover. But Remarkable 2 is like 4.7 millimeters thin, and this looks like it's going to be 4 millimeters thin. I mean, I don't know. Did I screw up the measurements completely? I tried to redo them so many times because I really didn't believe the result at all, but hopefully they will soon open up that cover so that we can actually see what it's like on top. Where did the two stripes go? Do we have perfect symmetry around the edges? And what is that slightly larger screen that they were talking about? Like, how much larger is it? So lots of information that we still do not have, but at least the story about the Supernote A5X2 is moving along, and that is exciting, despite the disappointing news that it has been pushed to Q3. And for me, I think more realistically that we're gonna talk about Q4, that it's going to hit the market, which is not a bad thing considering that it's going to be sales seasons, but it is a considerable delay nonetheless, and that is most definitely a negative thing. That being said, I would much rather have a good product that's delayed than a rushed product that is on time but executed badly or with some faults. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you like the video, and if you do like the work that I do, please like and subscribe to the channel because that helps. And also do check out mydeepguide.com/shop, where you can find My Daily Organizer and MMP, which is My Deep Guide Meeting Planner. Both are hyperlinked planners that help you organize your life and work or life habits. And if you're interested to learn more about them, you have the hyperlinks to the playlists for each of the videos or products in the description below, where you can definitely figure out, hey, this is a product for me or not. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye.